Hi everybody! I put out my first game in September. It had a good run, but traffic is pretty dead now. It gets maybe a couple downloads a day. I'm proud of making a game and getting all the way to release. I don't want to diminish that accomplishment, but I also recognize it's a very flawed game. There are a ton of mistakes I made. In this video, I'm going to share some of the mistakes I made, so hopefully you won't have to. I'm not a game dev guru, I'm still quite bad at it, but there are some things I've picked up along the way. So unless you're a part of the 150-ish people that actually played it, let's do a really quick overview of what my first game actually was. Ball Space is a puzzle platformer. The main level is set in low Earth orbit. You control a ball that can roll around and double jump. The main gameplay mechanic is that gravity switches between orbital gravity, a la Mario Galaxy, and more traditional platforming. You swap between these two gravity types as you progress through the game. The world is pretty non-linear, as the main level consists of a central tower surrounded by planetoids. There are 5 additional levels of varying sizes you can access by unlocking black holes with coins or finding their hidden entrances. The game's story is admittedly pretty thin, but told environmentally and through conversations. There's a bunch of different characters you can talk to, like computers and balls and penguins, and I'm probably missing some, but there's lots of people you can talk to. You can't collect the records in any order, and if you get stuck, there's a hint system. Each record unlocks a song that you can then listen to in the game. There's also a string of puzzles halfway through the game, but we'll get into the details of that later. Once you collect all the records and complete the puzzles, a golden computer is revealed. The computer tells you to email me, the developer, with a string of numbers that's unique to you. Emailing me with that code unlocks the final reward of the game and end credits. That ending of emailing me is weird. I'll talk about why I decided to do that later in this video. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about my first mistake, which was actually way before my first game. I got stuck in tutorial hell. In tutorial hell, you will spend all your time finishing tutorials. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying tutorials are bad. It is awesome that there is a lifetime of material that you can learn from. The issue is there's a lifetime of material you can learn from. And if you use it as a permission structure to procrastinate, you will never get to make a game. I found myself saying, I'll start my game after this tutorial, or I have to learn this first before I start my game. In reality, you can start whenever. So I recommend your first goal, number 1, just make a game. Just start making a game. Once you sit down and start doing it, it's a lot easier to continue. This leads into goal number 2, finish your game. Now, I had this goal for Ball Space, and I stand by it. It's a good goal. This is kind of similar to the previous goal, but there is a distinction. Lots of people start things excited, but eventually lose motivation and abandon their project. As you're working on your game, you will hit parts of development that just aren't fun. Push through that. For me, making UIs and menus is boring. No one is pre-ordering a game because the menus look sick. The truth is, whether we like it or not, UI is critical and bad UI can kill an otherwise great game. Being able to make good UI is part of becoming a better dev, so I have to work on it, even if it isn't the most interesting to me. Another really valuable side effect of finishing a game is that you will face technical challenges you wouldn't have faced otherwise. In Ball Space, it was implementing a save system. I had a lot of questions and had to go online to answer them. After watching a bunch of YouTube tutorials, I had a working save system. In Ball Space, saving is done primarily by rolling over checkpoint flags. I wasn't initially interested in saving, but I had actually added a new gameplay feature. I decided that when you respawn, your velocity is maintained. This puzzle is solved by jumping through a launcher in one tube and then respawning in the other tube so that you are thrown up to grab the record. Another technical challenge is that you will have to start considering performance when working on a large project. Stuff that works well in a tutorial doesn't always scale well. There are a number of performance enhancements I made, but a really good example is what I had to do with the spinning coins you pick up. The coins look simple enough. To make the coins spin, I created them as an animated skeletal mesh. For a couple of coins, that's not a big deal. Unfortunately, I had hundreds of them. That resulted in dog shit performance. I couldn't walk away from this problem. It had to be solved. This again led me to watching lots of targeted tutorials on YouTube and reading on real forums until I had a basic understanding of instancing and hierarchical instancing. This let me create hundreds of coins as instances. I then had to figure out how to apply the skeletal mesh animation to my instances. So to do that, I learned about a plugin called Anim to Texture, which does exactly that. If you're interested in it, put a comment below and I might make a video about it. The final result was that the coins looked identical to before, but ran at a fraction of the cost. Alright, goal number 3. Just one singular person will play the game and find enjoyment. This is the last good goal that I had. I just wanted to put something out in the world that made someone happy for a moment of time. It's also realistic. Lots of people want their first game to be a commercial success. That's probably not going to happen. You are setting yourself up to be disappointed, despite the fact that you made a huge accomplishment. You did something amazing, but you're framing it as something bad. Also, your first game is probably going to have flaws in it. Be prepared for people to trash it online. That's fine. It's not personal. And meaningful criticism can be useful for feedback to make you better. If someone likes any aspect of your game, or even just spent 30 minutes in it, that's a success. You reached out into the world and made something positive. Goal number 4, make a game I want to play. Sounds good, but was actually kind of a bad idea. At the end of the day, what matters more, me liking it or other people liking it? The brutal truth is that players generally don't care what your opinion is on what makes a good game. They either like your game or they don't. This is almost a trope in game dev. There is an elephant graveyard of projects where developers build their dream game. I might just be a cynical jerk, but whenever I see an indie game ad talking about how it's their dream game, it immediately makes me less interested. I'm happy you made a thing you like, but I don't know you. There is nothing appealing about it for me. I view it like a conversation. You are speaking through the game design, and they are speaking through the reception and engagement of it. Does anyone like talking to someone who dominates the conversation and ignores what you say? 99% of the time, that sucks. I'm not saying don't express yourself, but a big challenge in game dev is balancing what you like and think is good with what other people think. Your game doesn't have to appeal to everyone in the world, but you should think about who your audience is. What does your audience like? What other games do they enjoy? Don't try to rip off those other games, but try to understand what makes them appealing. Then you can go and say, how do my ideas fit? You will probably end up tweaking things for the better. This actually ties in directly to something I wish I did with Ball Space and didn't. Learn how to playtest. I barely did this with only 3 people playing my game before I released it. That ended up hurting it. You can play your game, but that isn't enough. Stuff that's obvious to you is not obvious to others. I know there's a psychological hurdle when asking people to play your game. You're making yourself vulnerable and showing something you've made. That's a very human response, but you just have to push past it. You want to start figuring out what works and what doesn't work as fast as possible in order to iterate on your ideas. Because I didn't playtest, I moved on to environment and level building far too soon without nailing down what the moment-to-moment gameplay would really be. Another problem that would have been fixed with playtesting is that most people never found the level with the silliest game mechanic in it. If you go down the barrel of this gun on the back side of the sand planet, you enter a western level. Here you can pick up a gun. It's very silly. There's a real sense of surprise. People never discovered it. Of course they didn't, because there was no reason for them to go to that side of the planet. There was no motivation to stumble across it. To me, it was obviously there because I placed it there. Another goal I had was capture the feeling I had when playing games as a kid. This is an impossible goal. It might be a little unhealthy. You can't go back to your childhood. Nothing will hit like it did when you were a kid. But I tried to introspect on what I was trying to achieve with this. I was always going to make Ball Space free because it felt weird asking people to pay money, but I also imagined a kid with no money to spend scrolling through the free games on Steam and stumbling across Ball Space and having a good time. This is as close as I can get to recreating that experience of wandering down an aisle in Blockbuster and just picking out a game because of the box art. As a kid, I also thought it would be really cool if you could win a physical prize for completing the game. The economics of it make no sense, but it always seemed like a cool idea. I did embrace that idea in Ball Space. There is a very simple physical prize for the first 100 people that finish the game. That's why the game ends with you emailing my dev account. I send a small physical token thanking you for finishing the game. So where to go from here? I'm working on a new game, just focusing on the gameplay. Check out the first devlog here. If you want to check out Ball Space on Steam, there's a link in the description. Subscribe and stick around if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks, bye.